All right, thank you. Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us after your morning break. We're here today to talk about the Source Control Inspection Program Guidance Manual and Training Resources. So this is just an overview of the materials that are out there and things that you can take and modify for your programs. So that's the intent of the presentation today. I'll be starting out with an overview of the project, and then focusing on what's included in the Source Control Inspection Program Guidance Manual, and then shifting things over to Mindy to walk through our education outreach materials that we developed for the project and other materials that are also available to support those materials. And we'll also give a quick update on training, one of which we had yesterday afternoon, a workshop here at the conference. So we've had great attendance at those trainings and wanted to give you an update on that program and where that's going in the future. So an overview of the project, we had 3 different tasks for this project. We started off with an information search, focusing on, there was a business inspection group report that came out. So we took a look at that and some gaps that were in that report and things that we could fill through this manual. We also conducted 4 additional interviews of phase 2 programs and health districts that had inspection programs to get some more information to pool with those resources. And then we also put together online resources, and we'll be walking through some of what those are, but education outreach resources from this region and from other regions. And again, looking at where the gaps were and what we could fill through our project. So after that task, we shifted into the online guidance manual. We started off with developing 3 priority sections, focusing on codes and ordinances and inventory development. Those were some of the early stages and source control requirements in the permit. Then we published the draft manual and final manual. It's available on the Stormwater Center website, and I'll be sharing that information as well. And then the 3rd phase was focusing on training. So we had a series of 4 trainings last October. As I mentioned, we had a training yesterday here at MuniCon. We've got another training coming up in May, and then we'll also have an online training that will be available soon. It's probably 95% done. We've just got a couple of final videos to post there, and then we'll be sharing that more broadly as well. So the manual itself, the Source Control Guidance Manual, contains 8 different chapters. The first chapter is just focusing on background and regulatory requirements. We first published that in December 2021, as I mentioned, ahead of the permit requirements that were coming up. And then we had minor updates that were incorporated in April of 2022. So if you pulled those way back in 2021, make sure you go and grab the latest versions, or it's always available on the Stormwater Center's website as well. Chapter 2 focuses on source control code, ordinances, and enforcement policies. So most of you already probably have that code in place, but definitely some great resources there if you're looking at updates to your code, strengthening your code, or building your enforcement program as things move forward with the source control program. Take a look at Chapter 2. Chapter 3 focuses on source control inventory. So again, that's something that you have your initial inventory in place already, but there will be changes and updates as you go throughout your inspection program. So take a look at that chapter, some other resources that are there, things to update your inventory as your program goes on in the future. All right, and the last set of chapters, chapters 4 through 8, we had chapter 4 is focused on developing a business site inspection program. We initially posted that chapter in April 2022, but there were some additional resources posted last year in November. So if you're taking a look at a letter template to introduce your program, or a letter to send out to businesses that are in compliance or out of compliance and have some actions required, there's 3 different letter templates you can take there and modify those, add your own letterhead, things like that. So take a look at that sample language there. We'll also be posting soon those translated letters in traditional Chinese, Korean, and Spanish. Chapter 5 focuses on conducting business site inspections. So this is where you'll find example inspection forms in Word format, in Survey 123 format, and also a PDF guide and how to take that Excel file and get it into your Survey 123 system if you want to use that electronic form. And feel free to take and modify those forms. Those are just examples. You can take and modify those and make sure it works for your program and things that you track internally. Chapter 6 focuses on data management and record keeping. And then chapter 7, which we'll be focusing on a lot today, includes the education outreach materials. I wanted to mention that there were spill plan resources posted last July and a set of new flyers posted in January of this year. So if you haven't seen those yet, we'll be walking through those today, but definitely take a look there. Those also have the InDesign files posted as well. So you can take those InDesign files, add your own logo, change language, change photos, whatever works well for your jurisdiction. And then we've got the training resources. We've got everything posted from last fall from those trainings. And that's also where you would find the link to the online training coming up in the future. So I'll be walking through some details here. As I mentioned, chapter 4 has those 3 business letter examples. So the program introduction, in compliance, and action required. And there's other examples there if you're looking at developing a standard operating procedure or still looking for an inspector. There's an example job description there. So definitely take a look at those resources. Those are great resources we've pulled together from others that help build your program and reach out to those businesses, both at the start of business inspections and then also as you're requiring actions following those inspections. Chapter 5, as I mentioned, includes those sample inspection forms. So take a look at those. We've got, as I mentioned, an Excel format that goes into Survey 123, a PDF guide and how to get that into Survey 123, and then an example in Word as well. And we decided not to convert this over to PDF just because we thought folks would probably want to modify the Word form. And so we didn't post this in a fillable PDF form, but you could definitely take that Word form and convert that to PDF once you've made your modifications there. And if you don't like that example inspection form, there are several others posted as well that you could pull from and create your own. Chapter 7, as I mentioned, we'll be focusing on more today. That's really where a lot of the resources are that we pulled for this project for education outreach. A couple things I wanted to point out here. There's this Excel table, and that's a really easy way to get into that table and take a look at the different types of resources that are available, what the audiences are, what the formats are. That kind of pools together all the resources, and I think is an easy way to find where they are stored along with the manual. We decided to group the general information into these categories here. So we've got general information, we've got information on dumpsters. So these are things that apply to multiple sites, information on spills, storm drainage system maintenance, and wash water. And I wanted to point out here that each of these is a link. That first one up there, the example booklets, brochures, flyers, and posters, is a zipped file link that contains all those resources listed there. So there's general information from Snohomish County. There's a great brochure that Mindy will be showing in a couple of slides, and a postcard, and a lot of other information just generally setting the stage for your source control program. And there's also some other great resources here that are just web links to web pages you could take a look at, and also an example radio commercial. So lots of great resources, a variety of different formats you can take a look at. All right, and then the latest update, just in January of this year, these are the resources that were developed specifically for this project. We decided some gaps that we saw were related to automotive, restaurants, and secondary containment. So there's right now there's posted English and the InDesign files for an overview flyer and some half sheets. Mindy will be covering these in a couple slides as well. Also a restaurant overview flyer and then secondary containment. We have translated most of these into traditional Chinese, Korean, and Spanish, and those will be posted soon. We're just running through some final checks with the translators, so you'll see those appear soon along with the manual as well. And then I mentioned chapter 8, the resources here right now. There's a lot of great resources related to those trainings that we did last fall. If you've got new staff coming on board or want to train a group of staff, there's our group activities there as well, and additional resources that we passed out at those trainings. We also have a series of case study videos. So this was kind of our peer training, how we got others involved. We have lots of great case studies posted there. They're linked along with the manual and also with the YouTube channel to the Stormwater Center. So there's a case study on building relationships. So ways to introduce yourself when you first go out to a site and build those relationships. So that came from the city of Kirkland. We've got a new facility, lumping a new facility into your inspection program. So that came from Snohomish County, that example there. We also have a field translation, and I think Heidi's doing her presentation jointly with this one. So that's a great one you can catch up on or take a look at the resources after this. But Heidi from SPU has a great case study on some translation resources and some tips to think about if you are out and you need those translation services, ways to think about completing your sentences, saving time for the translator to translate in between and things like that. So that's a great resource as well. All right, I'll pass things up to Mindy to walk through some of the materials we developed. And also we do have copies of those if you're interested. They're on with the manual website, but we also have some flash drives if you want to grab one of those. All those flyers are on there as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning, everybody. We had a wonderful training. Who was here at the training yesterday for source control? Oh, a lot of you. Hi, everybody again. So we'll go into the education outreach materials a little more in depth. For those who weren't at the training, folks who are out there doing source control inspections, or they're starting their program, but they're using what's guiding them on what the businesses are supposed to be implementing is through the ecology manual or equivalent. Okay, so it's all that long list of source control BMPs. Now, when looking through those source control BMPs and the manuals, they don't have a lot of drawings. They don't have a lot of pictures, or you do this, you don't do that, or they're technical. The language is technical. So what we learned in this project is that phase 1 jurisdictions who've been implementing source control programs for a number of years, and then phase 2s who started early or implemented programs for other reasons to protect drinking water or other projects, they developed special education outreach materials that really guide their customers through what they're asking them to do. So we did a survey of the folks on the technical advisory committee, and then also STORM, the outreach organization. And what was identified, people asked for outreach materials targeting restaurants, auto body or auto repair, and then also secondary containment. We found very little good information on secondary containment. And source control folks, you're going to see a lot of need for secondary containment also. So I wanted to start with these resources developed for this project. There's a full page resource on the right. It's a bit more wordy, so it's really targeting the business owner. And when you're working with that business owner, what's recommended is to open that brochure, invite them into it, and start highlighting things that you're asking them to do specifically, or circle it. So invite them into that information and give that to them. You can also email it to them, but in that one-on-one, you're going to make a lot of progress by really relaying that information to them. Now, the two on your left are half sheets. Folks asked for half sheets. And so 4 were created, very simple. These are really targeted more to employees. These could be posted on employee bulletin boards or around the site. So the half sheets are for auto body, auto dealer, auto wrecking, and gas stations. And those materials are meant to be used in concert with past materials that were developed upon using social marketing data. So this poster was created with an ecology grant where that project went out to the business owners and business managers and employees and showed them different examples. And they asked, what resonates with you? What makes sense to you? And what made sense to them were pictures, the do's and the don'ts, green and red, and very simple, and that message, only rain down the storm drain. So that is what really resonated with folks. So this poster, this is a poster that you can download from the site. Recommend you laminate it and provide that to business owners for posting in their employee areas, so you can work these materials together. Also, those posters are available in multiple languages. When the poster was first created in English, other jurisdictions took the files and created multiple languages. And when you go to the guidance site, the manual site, you can see what language those are in by the extension on the name of the file. So those are available to you. So the other one that was developed was for restaurants. It was interesting in October when we did the trainings, folks were just putting their programs together. But yesterday, I had a lot of conversations with folks who have started their programs. And a lot of folks are starting with auto shops or with restaurants. So we felt like we hit the mark with these materials. So this one is similar. On the right-hand side is a very detailed restaurant flyer. Has to do with grease, managing grease, mop water issues, floor mats, and dumpsters, kind of the four major things that you'll be looking at restaurants. It's really for the owner manager. And then the half sheet on the left is for cleaning hood filters, ducts, and fans. We heard a lot from folks that they really wanted something to provide to the business owner or manager about those activities. Inspectors, phase one inspectors and other inspectors have seen a lot of issues when this kind of equipment is cleaned. And there is a specific item in here that states, and I recommend when you're working with that manager owner, you circle that, is when you hire somebody, they are required to follow your what you're required to follow with disposal of those materials. So you're responsible, but they're responsible, and having that conversation with the owner about proper disposal of grease from those cleaning activities. And also there's a restaurant poster that was developed several years ago that is complementary to these materials. Pictures, do's, don'ts, multiple languages, and that's available to you to download. The secondary containment flyer, we just did not find anything applicable. And like I said before, you inspectors, you're going to see a lot of this issue, and you're going to be talking to folks about secondary containment and covering those containers also. So this flyer is very clear, very simple, to the point, and it does give the measurements, the volume requirements, which I could never remember out there. I think I had them written on the back of my hand. So that will be helpful too. The letters were put together. They are based upon phase one letters. And I really like this first one, the introduction overview letter. It provides you verbiage and information if you want to notify businesses ahead of time of you visiting them. And it's very clear. Some businesses will pick up that letter and only read the bold parts. We want to partner with you. Only rainwater should enter the storm drain. And the last bold part is what to expect if problems are found. And then there's all the gobbledygook in between that they may read or they may not read. But they get this letter on your city or county letterhead, and it gives them a warning that you're coming. And it may foster a callback. I heard from, I think, Linwood, that their letter that they sent ahead of time fostered, calls of people saying, okay, can you come out and do a pre-inspection and just let me know what I should be doing out there? The other two letters are an in compliance letter and an action required letter. The other thing that we found in talking to other inspectors for this project was how to relay to those where English is not their first language, and that to talk to them about what you're asking them to do. So we had the list of actions that are in the inspection form that you possibly would be asking them to do. And those actions are translated to Vietnamese, traditional Chinese, and Spanish. So you can communicate with them if the written word, is a better communication tool than verbally or using a lot of hand gestures. So that's available to you also. Spill plans. This is where you can make a lot of headway with folks. When you start talking to them about containment, possible spills, talking to them about the hydraulic lines and they can pop loose, and what are you going to do in the case of a spill? Oh, you don't have a spill plan. You don't have a spill kit. You can get them started with a spill plan template. And these are available in multiple languages: English, Cambodian, Chinese, Korean, Somali, Spanish, and Vietnamese. Lots of resources. Well, we have questions at the end, so I'll pass it back to Rebecca.
Thanks, Mindy. All right, and I realized that I misspoke earlier as you were going through yours. So Vietnamese is our language, not Korean. So okay. Sorry about that. We had some back and forth with the translator about what languages were available, and they had some translators leave. So Spanish, traditional Chinese, and Vietnamese are the three main languages there. All right, wanted to give a quick update on our training. I mentioned we had 4 workshops in person last October. So wanted to mention that we had excellent attendance at those. Normally when we have free trainings or free workshops, you know, we get kind of sparse attendance, but we had 90 to 95% of people that registered showed up and were there. And so that was great. Yesterday, I think we had just over 40. We had 42 yesterday. We've got another session coming up as well. So those were great experiences out in the field and walking through different examples in the classroom, out in the field, and walking through the background behind setting up your program and what to look for. Our next steps with the training program are online training modules. So you can see here kind of the landing page for that. So it'll be an online training through the Thinkific program linked through the Washington Stormwater Center website. Altogether, when we condensed everything, we have about an hour and a half of video content. There's a series of quizzes along with that or questions that walk you throughout the program. So that'll be a great resource as well, pooling the materials that we develop for the classroom trainings and having those available for new inspectors and refresher trainings in the future. So we're working on finalizing a couple of video segments associated with that, and we'll get that up and rolling soon. So keep an eye out for that. We have one more in-person training coming up. So if you have other inspectors that are interested in attending a training, we'll have a training coming up on May 23rd in Tacoma. And the registration for that will be opening soon. It's not posted yet. I think Lori was pretty busy with the conference here. So once she gets back into the swing of things, we'll get that up and rolling, but put that date on your calendar if you've got other inspectors that might be interested in attending that training. If you attended our one yesterday, it's same content, so you don't need to come again. All right, I also wanted to acknowledge our funding for this project and our partners for this project. Stormwater Action Monitoring was our funding for the project, so thank you to all the phase 2s and that pay into that program and provide these regional projects. I think they're really a lot of benefit to multiple permittees, so those are great projects. The Washington Stormwater Center and Lori Larson with our project lead. So Lori was great in leading things off and getting things coordinated with the Technical Advisory Committee. Department of Ecology provided feedback on our deliverables, both the manual and the training materials. We had a great technical advisory committee. So we mentioned we've had both phase 2 and phase 1 representatives. We had folks on the technical advisory committee from Bellingham, Kirkland, Lacey, Olympia, Port Angeles, Redmond, Seattle, Sumner, University Place, Vancouver, Walla Walla, and Wenatchee. Also Clark County, Skagit County, and Snohomish County, and also Cynthia Hickey, formerly with King County, stayed on to help us out with the project even after she was retired. So that was great to have her input through the TAC on our deliverables. Also wanted to give thanks to the Business Inspection Group and the Pollution Prevention Assistance Group who provided input throughout the project as well. So lots of great partners. We didn't do this in a vacuum. There's lots of great input from folks that have experienced programs, and so lots of great materials posted there for you to take a look at.